Now, I'm going to explain. This is why Taiwan needs Americans and why why America needs to love Taiwan. Taiwan's got to change. And America needs to understand that Taiwan needs to change and not to be critical and not to try to make them do everything the American way. Now, I've written to Congress and told Congress about this. There's nothing I'm telling you that Congress doesn't know if they want to listen. So you need to get that first. We're talking about other countries and international things. I don't believe in pressure through media. Media can educate the public, but if you want to bring about change, you need to let the government know also. So I'm going to explain. There's two things that I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about labor laws in Taiwan and how it hurts the Taiwanese and how Americans being in Taiwan would help fix it. And they need to change labor laws, and America's government needs to talk to Taiwan's government because Taiwan's government never listens to their own people because the people don't believe the government will listen. That's the thing. It's like the Taiwanese people are like the elephant roped to the stake in the ground. They don't know how strong they are. Because for so many years, the government never listened. Now they got a democracy. And so if they go to the government, they just yell. In fact, years ago, a congressman from Michigan was visiting Taiwan, and I was asking if it would be possible for me to try to go to an event that he would be at so that I can talk to him. And everyone was scared because they thought I was going to yell at him and heckle him and take my bullhorn because that's what the Taiwanese do whenever they talk to a politician. And I watched it happen one time. I have a mild acquaintance. We have a professional relationship. I go to his office, I schedule a meeting, and we sit in his office and we talk once in a while. And he's just a secretary. And I was at his office one time, and someone from the public had come to his office to complain, and he was scared, and the police were large and in charge, and this guy was angry and yelling. They don't know how to take up a disagreement in a gentle, decent way like Americans do. Right, Congress. Okay, thank you. We want to know. We're Congress. That doesn't exist. So having Americans in Taiwan would help them learn that level of calmness. I mean, it's just like I talked about in the previous Special Friday video today, that Vietnam needs our help rebuilding from the disaster that they've grown up with. When you don't have a leg, the width of the stitching on your shirt is not as important to you as when you're an American living a super luxurious life. And so helping the Vietnamese understand our quality control rules helps them have a more detailed, sophisticated worldview, makes them more formidable and strong as a people and an economy and more productive. That's helpful for them. And so just the same, Taiwan needs a cultural exchange, not to tell them to do everything how America does it. But if there's anything we know as a society that's well off, I mean, goodness, if your family doesn't have a lot of money, get around the people that do. And frankly, people that don't have money have a lot to teach the people that do. We all have stuff to teach each other, and we need cultural exchange. So I'm not doing this as the grand savior, and I'm not telling you what I'm about to tell you as the all-time critic. This is a real situation, and we want to talk about this because we need to know what's going on. Taiwanese generally don't know this. I told this to a legislator's aide, and the legislator's aide didn't believe me. And I'm like, this is your own law, dude. Like, you don't, like, really? And he's like, really? Yeah, go look. Don't take my word for it. Hear what I'm telling you, but then go double check. And, I think it was shocking to him, but Taiwan's government has been told this. They've been told this at many levels of government, and people are learning about it. But it's time that we know what's really going on. So I'm going to explain this. Taiwan has a rule for white-collar work. And white-collar work has to have a minimal of 14 hours at one location. We're talking English teachers usually, but I believe that works for other office workers. They want to protect Taiwan's jobs. Now, they want to protect. A native English speaker teaching ESL cannot be a Taiwanese job by definition. So it's not a job that needs to be protected. So 14 hours is to protect Taiwanese jobs. Okay. But they've misapplied that to ESL. Why? People in government in any country don't know the real world. So we've got to let them know about this. We need to let people know about this. 14 hours must be at one address. Now, after you have that job, this is my little dot. That's a little place on a map. After you have that job, you can have another part-time job of 6 hours, 6 hours, and 6 hours minimal. And the limit, I think, is 32. But just look at these numbers. Interesting. 14, 6, 6, 6. Interesting numbers there, I suppose. You can have each of these is one single address. Now, if there's an English school and they've got a building here and then they've got another building a few doors down the street, English teacher has to choose only one of those to work at. Why? Okay, we're talking Taiwan's crazy government that wrote these laws in a time when they wouldn't listen to their people. So, these are, we call them blue laws in America. I mean, I had an African-American black roommate in Chicago, and he told me, Jesse, I think under old Mississippi law, I'm technically some guy's slave. It's a blue law. If everyone had ever found it, they'd get rid of it. But I think technically on the books, I'm still some guy's slave. There's some county where you can take a rat into the county building for 50 and you get 50 cents from a bounty from rat infestation like 100 years ago. And that's what this is. Blue law. It's still old, but people don't really understand the problem with this. Okay. Here's the problem with this right here. So if an ESL teacher, an American in Taiwan teaching English, can only teach if there's a minimum of 14 hours at one address. Now, typically in the day, the working hours are going to be from about 4 p.m. until about 9 p.m. Now, actually, it's more like 4 until 8 or 4:30 to 8:30. So there's 4 hours, maybe 5. Okay, 4 hours, maybe 5. Let's keep it simple and say 4 hours because I don't want to go totally nutso here. So let's say that someone's working 4 hours. In 1 week, that's 20 hours. Okay. All right. Those are the working times. Now, where's 6 hours going to fit into that schedule? Let's say the person's working really, really part-time and we're talking only 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That's 15 hours. Where are there 6 hours some other place? See, this is 5 o'clock. This is 8 o'clock. What's he going to go do? Is he going to go get a part-time job teaching for 1 hour and then use the Star Trek Enterprise transporter out to get? No, he's got to travel. There's no place for a second 6. So this, if I can establish here, this whole thing is a joke. It's technically allowable. You talk to the Labor Department. Oh, you're allowed. You're allowed. Yeah, right. It's like saying you're allowed to do this as long as you go underwater for a minimal of an hour and you can't take a snorkel or scuba gear with you. It's like, that's effectively saying that you can't. But because, they don't, I don't think this is on purpose. I think this is just people not thinking. Now, okay, so really it's got to be 14 hours at one address or you're not able to do anything. Here's the other problem. This is black here's a law. Now I'm going to draw reality. If I were to draw reality, just yesterday, a school contacted me and wanted me to go teach, and I can't because they only need 45 minutes a day. And that's not even 6 hours a week. So even if I was full time, I wouldn't meet any of the minimum requirements. Because the reality is, in much of Taiwan, businesses are just little and small, a little tiny, a place the size of your house. First or second floor is the family business, and then the family lives up above. It's personal, and it's kind of like business and home trade. A lot of stuff works that way, like merchant home, like that. That's a really great way to work and live and do stuff. So, and we're talking townhouses. Even out in the middle of the country, someone will build a townhouse because they know that design and it's secure because it doesn't have very many doors. So here's reality in many parts of Taiwan. My experience, what I've seen, here's a school that needs 4 hours. Here's a school that needs 4 hours. Here's a school that needs 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours. All these are, this is a map kind of, and I'm drawing out here. If you're listening on a podcast, you can see it in the YouTube video. There's 4 hours all over the map. 4, 4, 4, all these 4 hours all over the map. And then once in a while, there's a school that needs 20. And then there's a school that needs 60. They're going to have to hire 2 teachers. And then there's a school, maybe a school that needs 14. That's weird. If you're big enough, you're probably going to need 20. Here's a school that needs 30. They might have to hire 2 teachers and, or maybe one very busy teacher. Actually, the school that has 30 probably has multiple English classes going on at once. So they're going to have 2 teachers because of schedule conflicts. And then there's going to be maybe an 8, a few 8s. Normal. And then lots of 4s. Little tiny school here. You know, mom's an English teacher. Mom knows English. Mom lived in America 20 years. Mom's an English teacher. She needs an American there 4 hours a week. She teaches the local kids. That happens a lot, kind of like a local daycare. So we got a few 8s, a whole bunch of 4s, a 30, a 20, and a 60. If each of those on the map represented what schools need, that would be reality. Now I'm going to show you what the law requires. If I came over here, I'm going to draw a big old line. I'm going to draw over here on the side. The law requires 14, 6, 6, 6. And I'm drawing a map here. Another 14 on the map. Another 6, 6, 6. And here's another 14 and a 6, a 6, and a 6, a 14 and a 6, a 6, and a 6. Now, that right there is what the law seems to think reality is. Not impressive, huh? They're out of touch with reality. Now, because of this, what this basically ends up doing is the only schools that can have a native speaker teaching English is a super big, super rich school. A little school isn't allowed to. This essentially is an attack on small business. There's no, a school having lots of money doesn't mean that the English teacher is going to be better. So there's no need for this. Now they'll tell you, well, if you're married to a Taiwanese, then you can work anywhere and you don't need to have this special permission to work at the school as a foreigner. But there aren't many of those, because this is just one example of all kinds of different crazy things that are happening. Laws are very disorganized. In other ways, with Taiwanese deal with laws all the time, they can be very disorganized. This is one way that affects Westerners. Okay. So because of this situation, it's very difficult for anyone in Taiwan to get typical good English. Now, I'm going to explain something else here. I'm going to F11 out of this, and I'm going to go up here and switch over here to this. And I wonder if I can make this big. Yep. Okay. Now I'm showing you a screenshot here that I'm going to edit a little bit and maybe point at, maybe write on a little bit here. Let's get a better. I'm using GIMP. All this is open source free software. It's very easy to get. I want you to look here in the middle of this. Now this is from, what's my brush size? This is from Dr. I. It's an app. It's English dictionary app. Now I like Hanping, but this is an app that comes free on many phones that you'd buy in Taiwan, and software, and it's for learning English. And I want to draw your attention to this little KKDJ thing right here. And I've got 2 words. These are screenshots. So these are screenshots. I'm using fair use because this is educational and this is a critical piece. Now, it's a great app. I don't have a problem with Dr. I app. What is this KK? What is this DJ thing? That's the phonetic alphabet. Now, I'm talking my experience. The KK this is basically some professor, whatever, some super academic analysis of how people talk. Not how you're supposed to say the words. It's how people actually talk. So again, there's some dictionaries are prescriptive, some dictionaries are descriptive. That means some dictionaries tell you how you're supposed to say it. Other dictionaries tell you how you actually say it, and we're not going to tell you how you should talk. We're going to tell you how people actually do talk. Now, it's like if I want to know how people actually talk, I'll just listen to them. You know, a descriptive dictionary telling people how people talk, not how they should, is generally useless. I mean, if we're talking about how people make up their own language, we don't need a dictionary. So this is descriptive. The KK and the DJ does not tell us how we're supposed to say the word. It says how people do say the word. And I'm going to explain this because I know the phonetic alphabet. And you don't need to. I think it's nice to know the phonetic alphabet. But anyhow, we're dealing with another language. So if you're studying English from another language, you might want to know the phonetic alphabet. That's why this is here. All right, this word, this KK, is pronounced city. That's, if I were to write this in American, the sounds would be a small s. Now this is really choppy on the computer. S, that's a short I. T, I. And that little doop-de-doop up there above the I it means it's a short I. That's my ugly S because my computer's working slow. City. That's how they're saying to pronounce it. Now below here we've got DJ. And they're saying that we should pronounce it C T. That's I'm kind of writing the phonetic alphabet in another way that Americans will learn it. CT. CT. City and CT. Now neither of those is correct. The word city should be pronounced city. Short I, long IY sound. City. The phonetic alphabet should be this. This is what the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, should say. S. This is our little I here. I'm writing really weird. C. T. S iota T I. C-T. That's what the phonetic alphabet should say here, but it doesn't. All right. Now, and I'm going somewhere with this. Because Taiwan's government puts a lot of weight in these KK and DJ things that don't matter. We're going to do this next one here. This is the word bear. And if I don't know that there is a way to write it. The way that they're saying to say it here is that's a short E sound. It's a Greek letter, an epsilon. Bear. Bear. Not bear or burr. It's bear. Like the short E, like set, wet, met. That short E sound. And this one, this is going to be really funny here. You're never going to believe it. What they want to say here. Be. Be. If you say, and I phonetic people could argue with me about the need to say at the end, and I don't want to get too much into that, but this is be. So if you got a PhD, please understand why I'm being overly simple with this. But most people get why I'm writing this. This is B short E, be. The KK pronunciation says to say bear, bear, not bear, bear. And the DJ pronunciation says to say be. Now, if we were to use proper IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, phonetic letters, this should be, and I'm going to write this funny character here. This is the short A, apple, sound. That's an A and E backwards. And it should be bear. It should be bear. That's what it should be. Now, here's the deal. In my limit, from what I've heard talking to people, the only people from England, and understand this, when I meet British people, I often place their accents. Like I've guessed people as being from North. I place people in London. I placed a guy right in Manchester from his childhood when I met him here in Taiwan. I spoke with the British accent in Hong Kong and a guy that I think was close. He was close to being a Burmese from Birmingham. And I've never been to England. I just hear their accents. They tell me where I'm from, and I get this imaginary idea about where things are from. This guy, I believe from Birmingham, his face turned red because my British accent was better than his. It's almost embarrassing that a Yank would speak with better British than I would. So I'm not blowing smoke when I have him. I placed a guy from Northern Ireland at an Italian restaurant, actually. So I'm speaking as a mildly accomplished enthusiast. I've only ever heard people say sitte and ber if they were speaking with an accent from Wales, from what I've heard from Wales. It's my limited experience. I could be wrong. That's my experience. And the DJ, be, he's in the city, or it's a be, it's a be. I've only heard that from, I'd say, generally what the rest of England anyway hopes to speak, what they aspire, what they think is best. It's a bear. It's a bear. Oh, he's in the city. It's a bear. It's a bear walking to the city. So that's what I've heard. These are British, and the KK isn't normal British. It sounds to me like Wales, not normal. I people in Australia, Canada. To me, it sounds like this DJ thing. Where's the American one? Okay, why does America matter? Here's why America matters. Because this is a Taiwanese app. This is the Taiwanese traditional Chinese characters here. The Taiwan government requires that students learn the American pronunciation. If students pronounce words this way in elementary school, in government-regulated elementary schools, they're supposed to get it wrong. Now, the teachers in Taiwan aren't good enough to hear the difference in the accent. So they actually wouldn't know, but they're supposed to learn American spelling, American pronunciation. They've got the CDs and the videos demonstrating the American accent with the American pronunciation of these words, and they're told it's supposed to be American. And right now, the reason I'm talking about this is because the premier, who used to be the mayor in the city where I am, the premier, William Lai, is trying to push English to be an official second language, an official language for the government. But if they want to have an official language for the government, they've got to clean up their labor laws, and they have to get this dealt with. And this is the problem here. They're learning American English. Okay, and this is a big so what, right? So they're teaching two British accents. Here's the problem. They teach and expect an American accent in the law. When English is used in law, it's American English. That's what they say. In elementary school, it's taught and expected. But then entering junior high and high school, there's this test sooner or later they have to take called the GEPT. It's a Taiwan English test. I call it a Chinglish test because it's not like your other TOEFL or TOEIC or IELTS English test that's made by English speakers and that asks questions about how well you can actually communicate. It's this Taiwan. It's made by Taiwanese. It's this misunderstood. I call it a Chinglish test because that's what it is. And on the Chinglish test, as I call it, the GEPT, I believe it's before junior high school that they have to know this. Students are expected to produce the KK phonetic spelling of these words. They've got, as I understand, it's a multiple choice test where, or maybe fill in the blank. Here's an English word with American spelling, not the E at the end of, some words, or not an OUR instead of an OR, putting our in the words, It's American words, American accent they've been taught, and they're supposed to produce the way they pronounce it phonetically in Wales. And they're supposed to write the letters on the test. Now, this doesn't make any sense. You're not supposed to remember the phonetic alphabet for words. When we learn words in America, in English-speaking countries, we learn how to say them. If you know the phonetic alphabet, or you learn little, short, long vowel symbols as a kid, that's just you know what that sound means, but you don't remember how to spell it that way. You just know what that sound is supposed to say. You see, so it's this little I with a smiley above it. Can you say that? Oh, that's I. That's the idea. So whatever phonetics, however you look at the phonetic sound of a word, you see the sound, the symbol, you see the writing, and then you know what to say. That's how phonetic alphabet works. Taiwan's not teaching the phonetic alphabet that way. They're expecting students to remember the phonetic spelling. If you're going to have a phonetic alphabet on a test, it should be with an American native speaker, because they're doing American English. Nothing against the British. I mean, nothing. We always love the British, right? Okay, but if they're going to have a phonetic test for American English, it needs to be an American native speaker who sits down or listens to a recording of the exam, and they tell the person taking the test, here are phonetic letters, pronounce them. See this sound? Say it. That's short A. Okay, see this? Short E. Now say this word with the phonetic alphabet. That's set, city, bear. And then, grade them on their accent. That's how a phonetic test that's how it's taught in school, kind of, when you're in kindergarten, first grade, maybe. So they're not even using the phonetic test correctly, and they're using the wrong phonetics. And the reason that Taiwan would even think to do this is because it's a test-obsessed culture. They don't study to learn. They study to memorize a cheat sheet list of information and then spit it back out on a test and have no clue how to accomplish or invent anything with it in the world. It's why the Chinese have made their new aircraft carriers by copying the aircraft carrier that they bought from Russia that was made in the Soviet Union, the Liaoning, which is in the news right now. There's some admiral in America wants to simulate attacks against this little diesel-powered aircraft carrier the Chinese bought and copied. It's part of how that culture works. Taiwan and China come from the same culture. I mean, Taiwan has many people. I mean, Taiwan is to China today what America was to Great Britain. A lot of people just got fed up with whatever at the time and left. And that was hundreds of years ago. And so this is Taiwan. And this stuff, this thing with the phonetics in the test, I mean, it's all this study that Taiwanese students have to go through, and it's unnecessary and it's incorrect. And I'm going to add, to boot here, I'm going to add one other little thing here to boot. Now, I've over at Pinkwright, that's my phonics book that I've written. Over at Pinkwright, I'm gonna press delete on this. Over at Pinkwright, I've talked about this. Stroke order. Just bear with me, Chinese stroke order. You're learning stroke order. Chinese stroke order will write across first and then down. So if they're going to write a plus, they'll write a minus first, and then they'll shove a stick down the top of it and make it a plus. That's Chinese stroke order, and here's why. When they learn to write Chinese characters, they're given a box, and the box is kind of divided into quarters, and they're supposed to write a character. Like, I'm going to write the character for tree. We go across first, and that's kind of even, sort of, and then they'd go down. It kind of looks like a Jesus, Christian cross, sort of now, and then we're going to give them legs under the cross. And that's that little doopy on the end there thingy is part of how to write the character correctly with a paintbrush, actually. So this is the character I just wrote. Now, that's a character for tree. That's how they learn to write. It's cross first and then down. Now, in English, we go down first and then we cross. Or the plus, we'd go down first and then cross. Now, something that looks like a capital T actually is a Chinese character for Xi. Chinese President Xi Jinping is actually his first name, Xi. It's not Z, it's Xi, and it's that character actually in the Chinese phonetics, which they use in Taiwan anyhow. So it's Xi, that's a Xi right there. And they actually write that, it looks like a small capital T, across and then down. They've got another one that looks like that, across, then down, then a little larger on the bottom, and that's gong. That means work, like industry or employee. Gong, it means work. Now, actually, it's the same sound as the gong, but it's a different thing. But No, I might be wrong about that. I might actually have made a little mistake there, but it doesn't matter. It is very similar. It's very similar to the Bush thing. So we've got, in America, we write down first and then we write across. In Chinese writing, they write across first and then down, and it's because of how they learn to write. In American English or British English, we have this line, these two lines with a dotted line in the middle. It looks kind of like a road, which is one reason we know how to drive on the road so well. And in Asia, they might struggle with that because everything's about boxes. So when we do this, we got our dotted line here in the middle, these two lines on top, we write down, and now we've got a little baby box there, kind of. And now we're ready to write all the rest. We're ready to make that vertical line into a K, into an H, into a T, all kinds of stuff we can do. We write our line first. And that's why we write things the way we do. Here, we'll make it into an E. There, I wrote an E. That's how we learn to write. Now, I'm going to give one more illustration for why this is important. This is a character in Chinese. It looks like a box, and I'm writing with the proper stroke order. It means ko, it means mouth, and it appears in a lot of characters. I think, is there a character that works like that? I'm not even sure if there's a character like this. I think this is a character for right, I do believe is a character for right. So it appears in that box. So I gave you an example of a Chinese character that uses it. If I write this fast or in cursive, I'm going to end up writing it like this. Now, they may say that's ugly, but people write that all the time, and everybody knows what that funny looking thing, it kind of looks like a 2 with sticks on the side. And people in Asia know what that is. They know what it's supposed to be, because when I write this character fast and in cursive, I'm thinking about that character, but I end up writing this. So I know what you were writing. That's how handwriting works. That's why stroke order matters. Now, let's go to the American T. American T, we're going to write down first. There's our little loop-de-loop, maybe. I'm drawing a little loop-de-loop on my T. It doesn't matter. I'll illustrate later, and then I go across. Now, if I write this fast without picking up my pen, I may be sloppy, but if I were to write it fast and not pick up my pen, it would look like that. And you might say, okay, you're trying to write a really sloppy T, difficult, but I know what you're doing. I'll write it a little bit faster, maybe a little bit more normal. It might look something like that, where I kind of pick up the pen. You're going, oh, okay, he's writing a T really quickly. But if I use the Chinese stroke order, it's going to look like this. Looks more like a tall lowercase e, or maybe like this. Now, why am I talking about stroke order? This is I'll come over here and get my red. This is incorrect. That's the wrong stroke order. But that's what Taiwan teaches. Taiwan, in their government-regulated schools, Taiwan teaches children to write English the wrong way. They tell children to write the vertical line first and then, the horizontal line first and then the vertical line is how they teach to write. They teach them to write a T by crossing it first and then down. And normally stroke order doesn't matter so much to Americans. Like, why is this a big deal? Well, I showed you with the fast handwriting why it does matter. But your teachers will watch it and make sure you're doing it correctly. And then after that, nobody cares. And you learn the right habits. And if you write quickly, then we all know what we're writing. It's not important, but they teach it that way. In Taiwan, they tell their students that this stroke order is the wrong stroke order, but they say that this wrong stroke order is so important in English, in the English schools, the government-funded English schools, elementary schools in Taiwan, that the children have to stand up for an oral test at the end of the year. Every student in the elementary school and has a test where they have to write the English letter in front of the class using the wrong stroke order that the government taught them. And if they don't write it with the wrong stroke order, the Chinese stroke order for English, Chinese stroke order for Chinese is correct. English stroke order for English is correct. Chinese stroke order for English is wrong. It's incorrect. And Taiwan teaches Chinese stroke order for English. And they have to stand up and use this wrong stroke order in front of the students and write the letters the wrong way in front of the class. And they're told it's the right way. And if they don't write it the wrong way, told it's the right way, then they get that wrong. Then they fail or something. Now, right now, Taiwan's premier, William Lai, and William Lai is awesome. I'm going to talk about him in some other videos. He is really an amazing person. And I believe that Premier William Lai, 他是赖清德，他是行政院长。I believe that Lai Ching-te, William Lai, the premier in Taiwan, can fix this problem. If anyone can make sure that these three problems, ridiculously using the wrong phonics accent and teaching students the wrong stroke order when it doesn't matter, but then making a super big deal out of using the wrong stroke order. And also about creating a black market by outlawing all English schools just because they're small. And I've written about the solution. I've told Congress what the solution is. I've told the Taiwanese government what the solution is. Go to right.pink, the website, and right there, Taiwan's biggest secret tells you about the solution. I've got a proposal for a teacher license. I've given it to Congress. America's Congress knows. There's no secret about this. This isn't secret. I've been talking about this since 2015. I've been talking about this. I believe Lai Ching-te, the William Lai, the premier of Taiwan, can fix this. This is hurting Taiwan. This is hurting the Taiwanese people. It's an old law. It's from the old KMT nationalist 国民党以前的党. It's old laws, but I believe that Lai Ching-te can clean up this abuse of stroke order, wrong stroke order teaching, and an abuse of the phonetic alphabet, and can stop discriminating against normal English school teaching market in Taiwan by getting licensed English teachers. I believe he can do that. Now, Lai Zongtong, or before he was Lai Zongtong, but now he's Lai Xinzhengyenzang. Premier William Lai wants to make English an official language for Taiwan's government. But Mr. Lai, I love you very much. I mean, I really enjoyed you as a mayor. I urge you, and I urge Americans to talk about this. If you're Taiwanese, I urge you to understand this peacefully. Be respectful if you're in Taiwan watching this. I believe William Lai and Tsai Ing-wen Zongtong, that President Tsai also can fix this problem, and they can help Taiwan's English. I don't write this because I'm angry. I write this because I genuinely want to help. But I want Americans to know about this, because if Taiwan has such obvious mistakes in their country, what big obvious mistakes are going on in America's country? We all have stuff that we can learn. So I'm not making this to shame anybody, but I hope that Taiwan views this video as a way forward. And I hope that Americans view this as a way to be humble